The game is changing, and the pick and roll is becoming an even bigger part of the game every year. And especially for small guards, players have to be able to take advantage of these. So we're introducing our pick and roll package, where you guys will have access to 2 months of detailed workouts, tutorials, trap coming out, I retreat, and a lot more. The way Chris Paul orchestrates the pick and roll is truly on another level, and it has been since the beginning of his career. The way he's able to slow it down, make those impossible reads, and control every single situation is really impressive. So I'm gonna break it down to a science. Let's talk about his passing first, since that's much of what he'll go down in history for. Of all the pick and rolls he comes off of, over 50% of the time, a teammate spotting up on the perimeter ends up with a shot. It's way more than just that pass to the screener. So it's important to realize that CP isn't just looking at that initial defender and hedge man. He's looking for help defenders rotating in to stop that roll. Especially if he's getting going towards that outside, the defender on the opposite wing will step in to stop that roll. So many times his man's going to be wide open. Or even if he's not, it creates a closeout, which will always get the defense scrambling. Or that backside corner is going to be open because his man is rotating to stop the roll. 90% of the time, there's going to be a disadvantage for that defense. And again, he's not looking for open teammates. He's looking for rotating defenders. It's a subtle but very important difference, because most times, that defender has a decision to make. If they don't rotate, it's a pocket pass to a dunk or a layup. If they do rotate, it's that swing pass back across the court. But these have to be dimes. Cross-court passes are never really easy, and to get it there before an NBA defender can close out is really difficult. But he makes sure it's precise and that it's there in time for his teammate to have time to work with. But it doesn't have to be on the run or a crazy one-hand pass. A lot of the time, CP is just going to be patient and come to a 2-foot stop to make that read and then pass.
Gallinari wide open for 3, and that time he gets it to go.
Plus, in any ball screen situation, there's going to be an advantage. So it's going to be easier to get into the paint. And if you get into the paint, that means more collapsing defenders, which means more open teammates on the perimeter. And that's something CP's been doing even more with the Thunder. Just making these quick passes as soon as the defenders sag off of a teammate. But of course, it is called a pick and roll, so we can't neglect how well he delivers it to that roll man. For one, he's got to engage the screener's man, which he normally doesn't have a problem with. Once he pulls them out to create space from that screener, the read, like we talked about, is if that second layer of defense is going to rotate over. Or many times he'll just dump it off quickly to that roll man and then let him make a play on a scrambling defense. In terms of delivery, most times this pass is either a bounce pass or an oop. Defenders are generally taught hands up, so that pocket pass is much tougher to get to on their end. Plus, if you ever tried to intercept a short bounce pass, it's really not that easy. And then the other end of the spectrum is that oop. If you got the tools for it, you can go up and over defenders. But that isn't to say that you can't ever use chest passes or other types of passes. Remember, there aren't ever any unbreakable rules in basketball. So in terms of his scoring, much of the time CP's basically going to use that screen as a way to get into a one-on-one situation. Over 80% of his buckets off of screens are jumpers, and that's mostly because of how easily he's able to score on that second defender, who's generally either late closing out, not playing any sort of defense at all, or just a mismatched big man.
No foul to give. And it is Chris Paul stepping back.
And while most of the time it's best to take that first easy shot, sometimes CP is going to pass up that open jumper like right here to let that play develop. So he snakes it, and while it's still open, so he takes it. But that's after making sure nothing was open for his teammates. But the way CP maneuvers the mid-range isn't easy most times, and definitely isn't for everyone. The awareness to see defenders around him and even behind him is crazy. The ability to create space with just a single dribble, to shoot off-balance shots. It's all years of work. plus his comfort shooting with taller defenders in the vicinity, which I made another video about, really helps him be lethal in these areas. And one thing that really helps him score so well in these areas are just these simple separation moves that he'll use to get those extra few inches of space needed. And lastly, watch how he'll throw that ball out and essentially sprint into that jumper. I would guess that this, one, puts the ball in a position where he can either pass or shoot, and two, get a rhythm into that shot without having to take an extra dribble. And then he's also able to get deeper into the defense many times, because the threat of throwing that oop makes the big hesitant to fully step up. And this is where you'll see him knock down floaters many times. Also realize that just as important as what happens after using the screen is how he sets up the screen. Without getting his defender to trail, the whole play could get blown up. So one, he's constantly looking for contact before using that screen to make sure the defender's behind him and he's in control of the play. And this is where you'll see him using a lot of his crafty and quote fancy moves to make sure that defender is off balance before defending the screen. And when he sets up screens so well, defenders will try to overcompensate and jump over early. In which case CP3 just rejects that screen into open space. Notice how well he sells these two. His chest is now oriented in the direction towards the screen, giving the defender the illusion that he's actually going to use it, or he actually is planning on using it, and then he counters back to reject that screen. In terms of splitting that screen, also notice how he's watching this before he uses the screen. So that defender's coming up out of control. CP sees that before he even uses the screen, so that split becomes that much easier. And last, the key that puts everything together is that pace he plays with. He's never rushing, always playing in a slower, controlled manner, which buys him more time to make these reads. Many players approach the pick and roll in a way where their foot's always on the gas. But it's even more important to slow yourself down and let the play develop around you. Hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Let me know what else you want to see, and also make sure to follow me on Instagram at ByAnyMeansBasketball for a lot more.